Welcome to the Mom as Well podcast, where we are digging deep into the gifts and the gaps of foster and adoptive parenting. I'm Tara Hutton, and I'm glad you're here. Mama's Well. Yes, she is. Well, hello. If you are new to the Mom as Well podcast, this is a place where we are talking about parenting. We're talking about trauma. We're talking about attachment. We're talking about reparenting places in ourselves that we find are continually triggered. So if you are interested in those kind of things, then you're in the right space. So I'm glad you're here. And today, this episode is going to be like loaded with some helpful information if you are just getting started. So if you are new to foster care, if you just got your license and it is hanging on your refrigerator, and then you are sitting back looking at it and saying, well, now what? Well, we're about to tell you, now what? So, and the most incredible, people that I could imagine to help me today to bring the answers to those questions that you have rolling on in your mind right now are here with me. And these two ladies, we have, welcome, Amber and Lauren. They are mentors. They are foster parent mentors, professionally. They're foster parent mentors. And we work together as a team for our agency in Houston, Texas, DePelchin. And so they've been in it. They are in it, they've done it, and they're doing it. So today, thanks guys for coming.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah. So I thought we would just start with 5 basic questions, and I'm gonna go ahead and give the questions. How do I prepare? What happens when I get the call? What do I need to know for the first 30 days? What's gonna happen over the next year and a half? And then what about the legal system? So today's episode, we're gonna tackle those.
All right, sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, so let's kick off with how can I prepare for a placement?
Excellent question.
Yeah, and so Lauren, let's just tell a little bit real quick your credentials here because
am I qualified?
Yeah,
yes.
You are qualified, but let's make sure they know it.
Yes, so my name's Lauren Bedevian, and I have been fostering with my agency for 5 years now. I've had 12 placements, and I currently have a single placement right now. And so been doing this. I am a foster-specific home. I'm not intending on adopting, but that may be in my future, just not right at this point. I don't know yet. It's always a journey for sure. So right now I'm just focused on fostering. So
okay, and then Amber.
And I'm Amber Robinson. My husband and I were foster parents for 5 years through DePelchin, and we had 4 placements, 2 sets of biological brothers, and we adopted one of those sets. So I haven't had 12 placements like Lauren, so she's...
But you've adopted, so there.
That's a good point. We have, different strengths and areas that we know more of that we'll talk about today.
Yeah. So, I know we host... we host these monthly meet and greets where all the new licensed families get on what used to be in person, but now on a Zoom call. And so, one of the big things is now what? What do we do now? How can you prepare? Because there's a lot of nervous energy, right? We have a lot of nervous energy. So Amber, Lauren, since you've done this now 12 times, what can we say to these parents that they're waiting for their placement? Nervous energy, what can they do to prepare?
The top priority would be making sure that you have your support system in place, making sure that you have friends or family, a church community, any kind of support system is going to be key, because when that call comes, you don't know when it's going to come, and you want to make sure that you have a support system gathered around you, because those first 24 hours are kind of a whirlwind. And so you want to make sure that you have people in your corner who are going to be ready to step in and fill the gap when they need to. So having a good community, making sure that people know what you're doing is my number one priority.
Yeah, you're kind of educating people along the way, aren't you?
Exactly. Yes, very much so.
What did you think, Amber?
So Fostering Family is a great Houston area nonprofit that has a lot of resources that can help in this stage. where you're just waiting for a placement. And so their website is fostering-family.org. Okay. And one of the things that they do is they train certified babysitters. So you can't just have anyone babysit your kids. You can have another licensed foster parent, it's a great idea to find another licensed foster parent, and y'all can trade babysitting, or you can get a friend or family member certified to do that. And so that's something you can definitely do ahead of time. I know single parent foster parents are required to do that ahead of time. You have to have a support system. It's basically what they're saying. Like, this is too hard to do alone. And then also on Fostering Families' website, under the community resources, there's a huge map of the Houston area, and you can see all the resources that are close to you and just all over as well. So there are parents' night outs, so where you can go. It's generally held at a church, and everyone there is certified and able to care for these foster children while you do whatever you want. You could have dinner or run errands or whatever. They also have resource closets listed on that map. And so these are closets all around the city where you bring your placement paperwork that shows you have a foster child and the gender and the age, and you can get anything you need for free, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And then thirdly, they have foster parent support groups. And these are huge because we feel like we're like the only ones doing this, especially when you first start. Of course, now we know tons of foster and adoptive parents. I feel like most of my friends are. But when you first start, you're like the only one of your friends doing it. And so I went to a foster care support group on the West Side for years before we even got licensed, because I just found it fascinating. And it was so great because it just really like set your expectations. You heard so many different stories and you learned all the jargon. So even if you haven't finished your training, I mean, I think it's still great to find one of these. And these become even more important whenever you're going through hard things, whenever you're stressed, just to have other people who actually get it, who actually know what you're going through.
I think that's great advice. Yeah. Great advice. You also mentioned, I've heard you talk about, locating where are the pediatricians and the dentists, and just you're kind of just putting some things in your back pocket, because when, like you said, when it happens, it's a whirlwind. And that can you find those on the Fostering Family website or not?
I don't believe they have community providers. We maintain a list for DePelchin.
So we have a list for. So where would the DePelchin families find that?
It's on the Facebook page under files.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. You definitely want to make sure that you use this time wisely, because I know while you may be anxiously awaiting to get a placement, but this is really one of the only times that is going to be relatively calm in your life. Yeah. So make sure that your home is ready. Make sure that you're all up to date on your trainings and all of the things that you're required to have in your home. If you need to have a fire inspection, make sure that that's up to date. If your fire extinguishers are not expired, you need to make sure that all of those little details are up to date, so that way you're not having to worry about those little things that your agency is going to require of you once your child has arrived.
Yeah. And, I'm sure that a lot of agencies do this online now. And you guys know how I am with technology. So I'm not so good at that part. But having a binder, let's talk about the binder.
Yes, you definitely need to have a binder, multiple binders. I have several actually, but there's going to be a home binder that you're going to want to have prepared in your home that stays in your home for the duration of your time as a foster parent. And this is basically going to be something that you'll keep all of your records in, keep all your training files, your certificates in, your copies of your fire inspection, any other kind of doctor's notes that you have for yourself, your TB skin test records. If you have animals in the home, you're going to want to have their rabies vaccinations here, because at any time CPS can come into your home and request all of these files. And if you don't have one binder that has all the information in, you're going to be scrambling all over your house trying to find, oh wait, where's this document and where's this document? So make sure that you have a file, a binder, something that's handy and readily available that has all of the files in it. Yeah,
a 3-inch binder. I mean, this is a big binder.
Oh yes, my binder is very large.
Yeah. All right. So that's great. And then also, like you mentioned briefly, but educating yourself by going to the support groups. But there are tons and tons of resources, of books. And I realize that when we're reading about trauma, there is nothing like experiencing it firsthand. But to have some vocabulary, to have some understanding, to have some framework around what you are about to experience truly is helpful
And you may feel like, well, I just went through all this training. That's how I got my license. But you really can use this time. You're not going to have a lot of time to read books whenever you have small kids underfoot. And Mom as Well has a great resource page with tons of recommended books. You also are doing a book study right now. Yes. You have almost 2 years of episodes of this podcast. So really use that time to dig into resources.
That's right. Thank you for that. Okay, question number 2. What happens when I get the call? Again, Lauren, 12 calls. No, you probably had more than 12 calls.
I've had way more than 12 calls, yes. But after you've panicked and freaked out a little bit, mainly the action is going to take place, because you're going to get a call, and it might be within a few minutes, a few hours that you get this placement, or it could actually be a few days even. It depends on the age and the nature of the situation, on how quickly that child's going to arrive into your home. But once you have the call and it is confirmed, now is really the crunch time in making sure that you are ready to go. So you want to have your home prepared, you want to have the beds prepared, you want to have everything that the child may need already readily accessible in the home. This is when your support system is going to be crucial, because you're going to be running in a million different directions, and you're going to need help getting all of these different supplies. So make sure that you are ready to go, getting all the supplies that you're going to need. Ask as many questions as you can when you get that phone call. What size is the child wearing? Is the child in diapers? Does the child have any allergies? Are there any things that I need to be concerned about behavior-wise? When you get that call, you're going to try and get as much information from them as possible. That way you are as prepared as possible. Now, they may not have all the information. They may tell you that it is a little boy, and in fact, a little girl shows up. Yeah. They may tell you that it is one race, and it is not indeed that race at all. So, take it with a grain of salt. But once that call does happen and it is confirmed, now is the action time. And you really want to make sure, again, with that support system, that you're going to be able to reach out to them and know, I need groceries, or I need 2 toddler beds pretty quickly. You need to be able to know who you're going to be going to, which is why that pre-work up to this point is very important.
Yeah, getting things that you need for the first night and the first day are really key. And so some food, easy dinner, essentials like diapers, wipes, pajamas, might want to even do some laundry. A comfort item. You don't know if the child's coming with absolutely nothing. Right. So, a small stuffed animal or a blanket, something like that.
Yeah, that's super important. I keep thinking, and we've talked about the community in both of these questions, but for me, a big step was learning to ask for help. Yeah. It's really, really hard to ask for help.
Because I'm the helper. This is why I'm a foster parent, right?
Yeah. A lot of foster parents they do fall into that category of being the helper, and I think that, while we can give you permission all day long to ask for help, it's super important that you give yourself permission to ask for help, because it can be a game changer.
Definitely can be a game changer for sure. And I feel called out on that part, because I'm very much one who does not like to ask for help. And so it's definitely something that you need to be comfortable in doing, and find those close to you that you can trust and rely on and practice with.
And I think, not everyone can do everything, but everyone can do something. And you could be taking this opportunity away from someone else who's like, well, I can't foster, but I could bring you a meal, or I could go run this errand for you. I think some people, we know as helpers, people get joy out of that, right? Yeah. And then also Fostering Family has a foster family profile form on their website. And so it's things that you've never even thought about. How does your family like to have fun together, and just all sorts of things. And so it gives you the permission to ask for help, and it gives it a more formalized process, and you can hand this off to members of your support system as well.
I saw that on Fostering Family website. You're literally, how teachers sometimes fill out this is my
favorites list,
my favorites list, and gives it. Basically, it's a foster family's favorites list in a way that you can ask for help without having to ask for help. And that's an organization that's right here in the Houston area. It covers Region 6. Okay. And so, but if you are not, we have listeners all over the country, there are organizations in your area that do this kind of thing. And so seek those out. Find that help, because it's a game changer.
Yes.
For sure. Another thing that we talk about on our meet and greet calls is like preparing meals, freezing meals, right? Getting like during this time, maybe this was question 1, but you could freeze some meals and get some things together before, because you're going to find yourself at the end of the day going, oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock, I don't have anything for dinner, because you've been doing all kinds of other really important stuff. So that's another important thing that we can do for ourselves. Okay. It's getting meaty here. What do I need to know about the first 30 days? Baby's arrived. A stack of papers this thick has been signed. Caseworkers, investigators have left.
Yeah.
Now what? What happens?
The chaos begins. You really want to make sure whatever your agency's requirements are, to follow through with those requirements. You're going to also be meeting with your agency. You're going to be meeting with possible attorneys. You're going to be meeting with possible child advocates. So you need to have basically, I would recommend a 2-week empty spot on your calendar for all of these different meetings that you're going to be going through. And that's just the meetings with the different people that want to see these kids and need to see these kids. But then on top of that, you have all the appointments that they have to go to. If you need to take them to the dentist, or if you need to take them to the doctor. Some children have psychiatrists they need to be seen by. And so having empty spaces on your calendar that is going to allow for these meetings to happen is going to be important. If you are working full-time like I am, hopefully you've explained already to your employer that, you're in this situation, you're going on this journey, and hopefully they'll be flexible enough with you to allow you to have some time off. You can take some time off legally, but making sure that you're going to have all of these appointments covered is really important. That's the big whirlwind of when you first have the children in your home.
Let's pause there for a second, because this is a question we get asked a lot. Is I am full-time, I do work full-time. What is provided? Who's going to take care of my kid?
Yeah, definitely. So if you are a full-time worker, if you're single and you work for 40 hours, or if you're married and you both work for 40 hours each, you are obligated, you are, given the opportunity to have daycare provided for you. Now, you're going to have to do some research on what daycares take this stipend, but there are plenty of daycares around. You just have to find them, research them, and go to them to make sure that they will take the stipend that you're
what's
given.
it called?
NCI.
NCI.
And
Okay.
it's through Workforce Solutions. So basically, all foster children are considered like a low-income head of household, and so they qualify for everything that a low-income family would qualify. So if you're a single mom trying to go to school and work a job, you can't pay for daycare. Nope. And so the government says, we want to build these families up. We want to provide a way out of this cycle, and one way we can do that is providing subsidized daycare. And so foster parents or foster children qualify for that. Not all daycares accept NCI, because obviously it's a low negotiated rate paid by the state. Sometimes you can find ones that don't technically accept it, but they will let you pay the difference. Like if you want your child to go to a specific daycare because of quality, proximity, your other kids go there already, something like that, that's an option as well. They also qualify for WIC. So women, infant, and children, you've probably seen those stickers in the grocery store, which a low-income household would also qualify for. So they don't want children to suffer nutritionally because of low income. So you have to go to some appointments, do some online training to keep this benefit, but basically it provides you with free formula, an allocated amount of formula, and also different things as they age. So baby food, milk, bread, peanut butter, fresh fruits and vegetables, things like that. So.
Yeah, it's a great, our WIC in our area was very, very kind and helpful and convenient, actually. So hopefully, have you had that same experience?
You definitely need to utilize it if you have a baby on formula, because formula is super expensive. So don't hesitate. Don't think that, oh, well, I have enough in my home, I can afford to buy my kid formula. Take that benefit because the foster child deserves it. They get it naturally. It's their benefit, not yours. So they get the benefit, and you can save that money that you spent on the formula by buying them other things like diapers and clothes and whatnot. But yes, definitely take advantage of WIC.
And it doesn't cover everything you would, like a lot of time, the formula is based on some formula function of the child's age, and so you should definitely take advantage of it. You'll still be buying more formula. But
and the appointments that you referred to, if my memory serves me correct, they are required. So within 30 days, you have to have a medical visit, a dental visit.
It's within 72 hours, right?
Oh, is it in 72 hours?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a 3 and 30 concept that they
Okay.
use, and you have to go through different visits, and it depends on the nature of what the child came to you also. Because if the child is discharged from the hospital,
Right.
it's different. If the child is entering foster care for the first time, it's different. So just make sure that you know the reason, the circumstances your child is coming into care, and follow the regulations and the requirements based on that.
And who's going to tell us these things? The caseworker that delivers the baby that night?
Nope.
Okay.
Hopefully you have a clinician within your agency. DePelchin will assign you a clinician for our agency that we're in. But hopefully if you're in an agency out there in the United States somewhere around the world, you're going to have a clinician with your agency that is going to tell you how they came into care, what the circumstances are, and what they're expecting of you within the certain time frame.
Got it. That's good. That's good information. And then I think it's really important that we have, you mentioned 2 weeks out for appointments and stuff, but like just having 2 weeks out at least to just be at home.
And present with the child, yes.
Yeah.
Because, no matter how a child has entered care, even if it's a newborn from the hospital, that's a whirlwind of an experience. And that child is going to need your undivided attention. And so if you're having to drag them all over the place, that's just adding to the trauma that they've already experienced. So being able to devote time and attention to that child or children is very important.
And, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you guys before, but one thing I had, and I didn't have with my boys decades ago, is a wrap.
Oh, yeah.
And I would wear my daughter everywhere I went. And I think that was so important. And so I would add that to the list of things to get. If you're
fostering
wanting
babies,
a baby,
you need some sort of a wrap, an ergo device, a Moby wrap. They have all sorts of baby carriers.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be wanting that baby, and that baby's going to need you to be attached to them.
They need to hear that and feel and experience your body, heartbeat, and that's an important thing.
Also, your hands free. You can
Yes.
do a lot of stuff.
You can
You
do
get
a
a lot
lot
of
of
stuff done
stuff.
that you need to get done.
It ups the time
While bonding with your child.
it ups the amount of time that you are connected with the child. So, okay. And what about so we have the baby. We've somehow made it through the first 30 days. A case is typically 12 months. Okay. Sometimes longer.
Give or take, right?
3 years.
Yes.
But, so what do we need to what's going to happen over these next 30 days?
So you're going to be dealing with a lot of visits, basically. If the child has visits with their parents, they're going to be visits set up for that. Your agency with DePelchin, your clinician is going to visit you once a month. The caseworker is going to want to visit with you once a month. If you have a child advocate, they're going to want to visit with you once a month. And so there's a lot of these visits that are going to be happening every single month that you're going to be able to get answers from, hopefully. You're going to be able to talk to your caseworker. You're going to be able to talk to the child advocate and get information on how your court process is proceeding, how this case is proceeding. And they'll hopefully be able to give you information. Another thing is they will have cases and trials set up. So they'll have hearings that you can attend, and we definitely advocate for you to attend. And as a foster parent, you have a right to attend. And so once those are happening, you'll get notified, hopefully, by the system, but sometimes you won't, and you'll have to ask about them. But those do happen, and you have a right, and in my opinion, somewhat of an obligation to be there to stand in the gap for your child. And so that's just basically what's going to be happening every single month until there's a trial date or a dismissal date.
Yeah, I think expectations are key. And if you go into this thinking like my calendar is going to substantially increase for the duration of this case, you'll be less frustrated.
Yes.
It's not just taking care of a child.
Not at all.
It is allowing all of the parts of the system to see your child and evaluate your child and have the information they need to hopefully make the decision in the best interest of the child. So you have monthly foster parent logs. Especially if you get a really young child, you have tons of doctor's appointments. And yeah, everything is required, like what you mentioned earlier. You can have a lawsuit for medical neglect if you are not doing the things that you're supposed to do, even if the doctor writes on the form, like follow up in, 3 weeks. You have to follow up in 3 weeks. I always get the doctor say, could you put 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 5 weeks, like within reason, but you're really held to very strict standards as a foster parent. For better or for worse.
Right.
So, and also with all the people that Lauren mentioned that will be cycling in and out of your house, it's great to have a prepared list of questions to ask them. They are all very busy. This is not the only child on their caseload. They're visiting all their other children that are assigned to them. And so, except for CASA volunteers who only have one, but everyone else that's party to the case has multiple children that they're juggling. So you can definitely call or email or text them your questions, but they probably appreciate it if it's not urgent, just to kind of save those questions for when they're actually in the home. And just being prepared to talk about your child, to like really make it a priority to know your child and know what issues they came into care with, what evaluations they've had and when, what was the date of their last appointments. Like, just have this on the tip of your tongue or written down. So you come off as who you are, a prepared, on the ball game, concerned foster parent who really is working their hardest to do the best for this child in their home. And so those are great times to ask questions about the legal part of the case, confirm the next court hearing date, ask the permanency goal. So that's just a way of saying what is expected to happen with this child. Are they going to be reunified with parents, or are we looking at unrelated adoption or related adoption with a biological relative? And so these things can change over time, but that's just a great time to just ask these questions. So you don't come across as terrified or scared or nosy. You're like, no, this is just part of my routine. This is just what I ask you when you come to my house. And also just being able to say, like, this is all the progress that the child has made. These are the issues we're working on. These are the therapies we're doing. So that's the best time, is in person for all of those things.
Yeah, and you're saying all this, and I'm thinking documentation.
Absolutely.
Thoughts on that?
You just basically have to record everything, anything that happens within those first 30 days and anything that happens within the duration of the child staying with you. You're going to want to make sure that you have it documented. Scratches, cuts, and bruises, you're going to want to make sure that you have sent that to the caseworker so that they know what's happening in the child's life. Just making sure that you have a record of everything is very important.
And one thing I always think I always did was make sure when you're sending emails in your subject line, because things get lost, right? Subject lines are key in this story. Like, like November 2022 log. Making sure, because it's notorious that a caseworker will say, "Oh, I didn't get this," or "I didn't get that." Not, forward, bam. Super important. And then what about before, we've kind of touched on the legal side, but before we go on to legal side real quick, is there anything else that along the way that we're, Lauren, you do something with, I know you do this on Facebook. You kind of have this pictorial,
talk about that.
You're kind of documenting this child's life through codes.
So you want to make sure that you are taking pictures of the children like they're your natural children, and you want to make sure that you have a record of what their life experiences have been. And so I make sure I'm a big picture taker, not professional by any means, but I am a big documenter of things that have happened. And so, for example, my baby, she had occupational therapy yesterday, and so I took a picture of her at occupational therapy. And so when I've had the children, I'm compiling all of these photos for them in their own book, which I call a life book. You might have heard of that. And so that way, if a child ends up leaving my home, they can have this entire binder, this book that kind of goes through the entire time that they were in my home. It can see birthday parties. It can see the first time they crawled, the first time they walked, special significant friends that they've met along the way, going to the zoo, going to the aquarium, just documenting these times, because children in foster care, they often have that period of time lost from their memory and lost from their life. And so being able to document that and send that with them and keep that with them is really important. And even if you are intending on adopting and end up adopting, then treat it like a baby book. Treat it like you were going to have these memories of these children forever, and you want to just be capturing every moment. But I especially stress, being a foster parent, you don't want to have the time that they're with you lost in translation. You really want them to be able to go and graduate from high school and say, I have a baby photo of me, because when I was in that foster home, They took an obsessive amount of photos, and I don't want them to have that time lost. I want it to mean something to them, where they can look back and know there was never a period of time that I was without love.
Yeah, they were loved and celebrated and cherished and photo worthy.
Absolutely.
And I've the 2 boys that we didn't adopt. I sent them with a flash drive of all the pictures and videos too.
Yeah.
So they could have digital copies in addition to a book.
That's beautiful.
But,
so important. So important. And then let's bring this home with the court system, which the court is one of, I would say, when we talk to foster families, one of the scariest things that we deal with as foster parents, because we don't feel like we have any power there, which we really don't. And Amber, you and I, episode 13 of Mama's Well podcast, we'll make sure there's a link to that, but you go into a lot of detail, very beautifully so, by the way, on the court system and all of that. But let's just give a brief overview here.
Sure. Yeah.
That's one of your specialties. So will you take the ball on that one?
Sure. Yeah. I had attorneys who just imparted all of this knowledge to me. And I was like, none of this was covered in training. This is all really good to know. Effectively, you don't have any power as a foster parent legally. You are not a party to the case, but you are the child's sole caretaker. And there's so many young kids in foster care and they can't talk for themselves. And so it's just so important that we communicate these things. And so 2 main things, if I just boil it down to the most important, would be attend all court hearings, except for the show cause. You don't need it. That's the very first one, determining if the child's going to stay in foster care or not. You might seem a little overzealous if you're at the show cause. You may not even know it's happening because it's just so soon. So attend all court hearings and then find out who the child's ad litem is and get to know them. And so that's the child's court-appointed attorney. So again, these children are treated as low-income head of household. They're indigent, and so they're assigned a court-appointed attorney. And that attorney is the single largest influencer on the judge's decision because the judges appoint these attorneys. And so they've donated to the judge's reelection campaigns. They see them, know them, admire them for their work, and they're there in the courthouse every day together. So make sure you find out who that attorney is. You offer to meet with them. And you let them know like how the child's doing. It's the same type of talk. These are the issues the child came in with. Here are the evaluations we've had. Here are the therapies we're doing. Here's how he or she is progressing. And then, of course, it's not just, all factual. It's also, you're showing them the loving home that you're giving these children. You're showing them the bond that you're forming. And you're showing them that you're not white-knuckling this child. You just want the best for this child. And right now, they're in your home and you're giving them the best. And then also attending court hearings. A lot of people are scared by that. I was not a foster parent during the pandemic, and so I've never had any Zoom court hearings or anything like that. But I can only talk from going in person. You should definitely go in person. It's a weird experience. It will be awkward. It will be stressful. It will be an inefficient use of your time. You're going to be there for a long time waiting for the case to be called, and it is still worth it. It's your firsthand information. And also you're seeing all the parties to the case. So you're seeing the child's attorney. If they'll never meet with you because they're too busy, which does unfortunately happen, it's their job to be at that court case. You will say, hey, introduce yourself.
Right.
I'd love to talk with you. I would love for you to meet your client. Those are kind of powerful words. You should be meeting your client. Hello. Yeah. So anyway, you get great information. You see the people that you need to see, and the judge sees that you are an informed foster parent there to advocate within the limited way that you can. Also, I've been asked questions. I've been asked to testify, all without knowing that beforehand. And it only happened because I was there. Also, you can remain anonymous. A lot of people are a little freaked out by that. I was one of those people in the beginning, but you just never state your name in a court hearing. You just always say, I'm the foster mom. Whenever the case is called in person, you go up. You don't just sit back in the rows and hope you can hear something. Again, you need to be seen. They need to know you're there. You are part of the discussion, even if you're just a fly on the wall because you're not asked any questions. You still want to show that you are you're there and you're a part of this and you're trying to do the best by your kids.
Yeah, that's great. And if you want more detail, I think we spent about an hour on that on episode 13. I'll put a link in there, but that was really powerful information. So any last minute closing things, girls, ladies?
Just keep going and don't give up. I find myself struggling a lot to say, can I keep doing this? Like, and then I look at the child in my care and I'm like, yes, I can. She's worth it. And no matter what happens in her case, it's all going to be worth it. And so don't give up. You can do this. Reach out for that support system.
Yeah, it's as hard as it is meaningful and fulfilling. It's just equally both, and it's worth it. These kids are worth it. So.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so happy to be on a team with you guys.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Good. Yeah, this was very informative and I think very helpful. So I hope you experienced, I hope you gained some insight, some wisdom, some knowledge, some, comfort, and knowing that, it's a hard journey, but other people have done it and that you can too. So check out the show notes. There's going to be loads of links in there. We'll make sure that everything we talked about today is in there. If you have additional questions, we will put our contact information as well in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. If you are not a subscriber to Mom as Well, this is the time to do it. So scroll on down. Click, I think it's follow now on Apple Podcasts. It used to be subscribe, but follow. If you enjoyed this, give us 5-star rating, and a review is always nice. It helps make the podcast more accessible. It also helps me get good guests. So when I reach out to guests, maybe that have written books that I love or experts in certain fields, they're going to look at the podcast and see, is this helpful? Am I using my time wisely? And so your reviews make a difference. So thanks for doing that in advance, and we'll see you next week. Mama's well. Yes, she is.